Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and the next build I decided to take upon myself in the Fresh Year event is a Spectral Shield Throw Scavenger. The idea is actually not how it ended up being at all. So, which is kind of rare for me in other news. I actually wanted to do Eternity Shroud with this character, and it wasn't really feasible in the end because I just couldn't get the shaped gear thanks to the Omen of Fortunes that got basically destroyed from the market after I started doing this. So Omens of Fortune turn a unique item, or a rare normal item, into a unique item just with one chance orb, and there was plenty on the market for like 2 divines, 3 divines, something like that. By the time I actually started doing my chancing, the entire market was cleared out and I could not do Eternity Shroud the way I wanted to. So this is kind of a build pivot in a way, and it's I'd say, fairly unoptimized version of Spectral Shield Throw, but it still ended up being pretty damn good and certainly worth sharing. The idea was to go all the fizz into all of the early, primarily lightning, then cold, Eternity Shroud, get lots of chaos damage, and then, scale through wither and stuff like that. Instead, what the end result is, I am kind of converted, so I am using fizz to lightning and some conversion on gloves, but it's not really good for my character anymore because I don't have like real advantage of that conversion. So it's basically just a hard-hitting Spectral Shield Throw with some fizz, with tri-elements, but all the damage types are actually still important here. What's actually happening though is just a scavenger, and you do have Cloak of Flame, which lets you have 40% fizz as fire, which brings a lot of tankiness to this type of a build. We are then using the Void Battery node, which gives us a lot of spell damage, and then Power Charge to scale more spell damage off of, and that's why I've gone out of the way to get up to 8 Power Charges right here. I initially wanted to run a Void Battery in my main hand, but it just doesn't make enough sense compared to an actual good stat stick. And then also I was going to use the Chaos and Shock sort of node on Scavenger, but instead, since we're not doing chaos damage, we picked up Adrenaline. So the end result is that I'm using Emperor's Vigilance, which is still long-term known about for being a very good shield style shield for the skills, and it doesn't have as much of a weakness as it usually felt like. I've done it a couple times in the past, and because of that glancing sort of stuff on the shield and also the energy shield mod there as well, basically it just always felt terrible to be using a Emperor's Vigilance for defensive purposes. This character, however, does not seem to have those issues. I instead have really good defenses and, I'd say really good up to a certain point, and we feel pretty tanky in the end game and don't have that usual Emperor's Vigilance problem. I have now almost hit level 96 and yet to die on this character, so it's theoretically still a hardcore playthrough. Haven't gone ahead and done any super tough bosses or anything yet, but it's gone pretty well just for mass amounts of breach clearing because I've got capped glancing block on attack, near capped on spell. I've got capped spell suppression and also a decent amount of armor, about 20k armor. On top of that, we have that Cloak of Flame. We have permanent Flasks because I'm using a Tides of Time and Pathfinder Scion Ascendancy stuff. So permanent Flasks pretty much. And then pretty good recovery as well. So all in all, it ended up being a good character for blasting thick amounts of breaches. It didn't feel quite as good to me as the Ice Nova thing, but still, it's taken me like a day. Well, I don't know, something. It's probably been like 16 hours, something like that, to hit level 95 and a half. And it does go through breaches pretty nicely for just comfortability. Like, I don't get too scared of too many things, and still yet to die. Currently only actually gone ahead and taken on several Guardians and stuff because I'm still trying to level up and make sure I'm still a hardcore viable character. But of course, Spectral Shield Throw does not have great single target, and that is something that is somewhat noticeable once you start getting to the later game. to start with it here, it's not great because we're building up power charges. Before I've got my power charges, I don't have all my crit up and all my damage. But once the power charges come up, I mean, I've got probably something like 5, 6, 7 million DPS, which really isn't anything crazy for single target. But I think the Eternity Shroud version has potential of being something like twice as good, and then that's probably enough to do most content in this game. I just couldn't pull off a good version of the Eternity Shroud version because of what the market was like at the time. All things considered, Spectral Shield Throw definitely still a pretty solid and viable skill at the moment if you build it a certain way. And of course, I think Scavenger and Simon's pretty OP for what it does in various different ways. So there's a good reason that it's one of the most popular ascendancies out there in this event. And probably want to get on that shit at least one time. All that said, yeah, if there's any more endgame content or something, we'll have another video, but for now, let me go ahead and show you how I built the character and the progression up to the point that I've left it off at for now. So here's our character, level 95, eternally dented as always, but eternally, it was supposed to be Eternity Shroud, and if you're unfamiliar with the item, I'll show it to you real quick. I have made plenty of these builds in the past now, this time around we didn't get to it. Wait, where the hell is it? The penis tab, I'm pretty sure. There it is. Alright, so yeah, Eternity Shroud gives Ellie as chaos per shape or item equipped, so you go full shaped onto your character, get something like 50 Ellie as chaos, and that applies to every step of the conversion process. So if you're converting from fizz to lightning, and then lightning to cold, cold to fire, you get like the elemental damage through each of those conversion processes, which is basically what makes it so strong. And the challenge is getting all your gear shaped and using certain uniques because it's tough to chance those, but Omens of Fortune, which, you know, usually on the market or were on the market at a decent enough price, there you go, they're back to 1 to 3 at this point, so I could have cleaned out the market offline, whatever, and done it. But when I was actually trying to make it, I could not have enough access to Omens of Fortune anymore to make the Eternity Shroud dream come to fruition. So I basically had to hard pivot at around level 73 entirely into a different version of the SST that I wanted. So I did make a shaped Emperor's Vigilance, just grabbed the base and then turned it into shaped with 1 chance orb. That one's easy because that's a guaranteed hit. There's no other shield that can be there, and I'm still using it, but obviously it doesn't need to be shaped anymore. To actually pivot, I just looked around at what else I could do for a double +2/+1 because it's very important for Spectral Shield Throw to hit level 24, and because it did manage to hit at least level 24, we get an extra threshold of fizz damage per armor on that row of text down there. If we're using Awakened Added Fire like I currently am, you don't obviously need an extra +1 there, so just a +2 will do it as well. So I went with a Lionized Vision because I could get this for only 3 divines, so double plus gems there, and that then just kind of meant I'll build the character around that as kind of normally as I can with Spectral Shield Throw. I decided to grab a Crown of Eyes for +1 power charges. This thing was maybe only 3 divines as well. I wanted to recreate the God jewel that I had all those years ago, but I ended up finding something that was slightly better for my purposes, and that is just a Caspero jewel over here that gives us spell damage, damage per charge, physical damage, which is what all of our damage is based off, spell damage, fizz projectile damage, increased armor, and then projectile damage over here. So we get a lot of damage just from this jewel and also from spell damage, because we also get Void Battery there. In essence, our character has something like, I don't know, 400, 500% spell damage that then gets turned into attack damage from Crown of Eyes at 150%. So we should have something like, I don't know, 700-800% increased attack damage, which is why you don't really need much actual percent damage beyond that. You just spend the rest of your tree doing kind of whatever you want, either life, defense, some crit and stuff. So yeah, we have the Scavenger Cloak of Flame, very powerful thing indeed. You could just go a Cloak of Flame here as well if you want, with a +2, and then that just huge amounts of EHP. We got a void battery, and then I took the adrenaline thing. One thing to note about this one, it doesn't refresh while it's still up, so that is kind of smelly in some way, but if you're killing, large scale enough, it's pretty much always up, but it will count down the 5 seconds before you can reapply it for another 5 seconds, so that's one annoying thing on this one. We just had to create a passive tree that went all the way up for power charges and anointed one power charge, and then went all the way around for more power charges over there. We have point blank, and just one megalomaniac from a previous character that gives us a bit of extra life on block, and then some spell block as well. So we should be close to glancing capped. We are on attack block, we're close on spell, we have good enough res while my flasks are up, and they're up most of the time. Suppress with lucky suppress, pretty much 100. Good armor over there as well, and my recovery is pretty good, and I'm almost immune to most ailments. We have this over here, we have the boots that we crafted, like 1D base, and then avoid ailments and put avoid ailments, and then I finished off the cold over here and the freeze, so we're immune to that but not fully immune to everything else. We grabbed a sword with nothing on it, so just a shaped sword. Roll Essences of Woe until you hit cold or fire. You then have to roll cannot roll attack modifier from the bench, and make sure you have a spare prefix. So cannot roll attack modifier, spare prefix, slam until you get rinse and repeat this process until you get the double extra. It took me one go for that, so that was pretty clean. And then wipe the suffixes in multi-mod, and that's how we have one of these. I did my own fracturing on this, and then ended up just having this thing because I do need int. Initially, I did not need int, and I was going to run a void battery with supreme ostentation, but in the end, the way my passive tree was, I was actually getting enough stats that I just needed a little bit more to wear Crown of Eyes, and that's it. So I just decided to fill out my stats. But you can obviously ignore stats if you want and go through a different pathing, and then not have to worry about stats, but you will have to worry more about accuracy than I currently did. I still needed accuracy, so I grabbed a fractured accuracy ring and then rolled it with like chaos and chaos harvest stuff to get to something like this. Minus mana ended up feeling pretty good in the build because I didn't have to invest too much in things like this and the minus mana costs on the life thing. So we just tried to solve it there. I'm using Tides of Time because once I saw that I could get the Pathfinder Flesh and Flames to give us this over here, give us extra charges. It wasn't too expensive, it was 2 divines each. I decided, yeah, I'll try and just make a little mini Mage Blood setup with the Tides of Time to just fix resists and some extra defenses and stuff. That's what these rolls all do. On these things, they're just increased and reduced duration stuff, and they're almost entirely, up all the time. Not completely, but most of the time, so it's reliable enough, and that's kind of how I tried to help fix resists. And since I am Cloak of Flaming, decided to do a Ruby Flask, and that's why we're wearing Tides of Time. Aside from that, also first time I think I'm ever using Yoke of Suffering, which gives you all of your elemental damage can shock, so we don't have to really worry about lightning damage. And as I said, you can see I'm currently triple thinged, but realistically this is actually adding almost no damage to my build because the fizz is just as good, and I don't have good elemental penetration on this build at the moment. It's pretty much all coming from Trinity, so if I instead do Vicious Proj over here, which I'm currently leveling, that's going to be a lot more damage. So yeah, Yoke of Suffering otherwise gives us elemental damage can shock, and then damage for each ailment. So bear in mind, you can do that with lots of different ailments. So we do have all those normal ailments, but we're also doing bleeding and poison, thanks to these nodes over here for the bleed, and 1 point for the poison over here. And that's what makes that such a good item and why a lot of people use it. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all there needs to be said. Yeah, SST is a pretty strong skill, once again, with Emperor's Vigilance. It just has some downsides, but Scion can help take care of some of those downsides and still have you with, leaving with a very thick character, I think, anyway. So currently, it's taken well, we're level 95 and a half, and we have done 16 hours played, and that's largely because of some breaching and stuff, but with lots of crafting in town as well. Like, still been pretty fast, 0 deaths so far. Most likely going to die a bunch of times once we start taking on thicker content. I'll try, level up. I'll try some 17s and stuff like that, but I'm probably moving on from this character pretty damn soon, just because it's not really my original vision for the character, and it is fun, but I think there's still some more stuff we need to get to. So Spectral Shield Throw, that's what that looks like, and it only looks red and sunrise because of this MTX over here, just so you know, because you are like throwing a projection of the shield, and I get asked about the MTX plenty. Otherwise, I'm just wearing Solar Knight body armor stuff and Legion Commander back attachment, and that's how we look like that. So that's this kind of little build and attempt. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.